Okay, Marge Lobell Feuerstein. All right, class of 1955 could not decide which was her preferred place to tell me about. It was either chock full of nuts at 116th. Yes, I used to live upstairs. Yes, famous old New York institution, or the Stacks, where she also spent lots of time. So Marge, come on up.
My dad was a physician, and my mother was a retired teacher. So we were just expected to go on to higher education. We were also expected to do well in school, and I always did. I was at the top of my classes. But because it didn't take a lot of work to do it, I never really internalized the idea that I did well because I was smart, until I got into Barnard. And here, everybody was smart. And so when I began to succeed in classes and professors were complimentary, it finally internalized the idea that I did well, not because I was getting away or that it was a fluke, but because I was intelligent. And that also meant to me, that meant I could achieve probably anything I wanted. In my second year, Dean Millicent McIntosh took a sabbatical, and Thomas Pearden was the acting dean. I was sitting in his government class with my bobby socks and my saddle shoes and my poodle skirt and feeling very sophisticated. And in bops this gal who I didn't know, and she sits down next to me with a white starched blouse and a whole head, back head of banana curls. And they interrupted the class a lot to give the dean notes, and so we got a chance to chat. And she said to me, my name is Rena, and I'm one of 6 children. I have 5 brothers. I was intrigued. Not the way you think. It wasn't because I thought, oh, that's a lot of dates, because I wasn't interested in marriage. I wasn't in college. In those days, they used to say you were here for your MRS. No. I was going to go on to graduate school, and I was going to write papers and do research. I was just intrigued because I literally had never met anybody who was part of 6 children. I thought everybody had 2 children, except we did have one uncle who had 3, and I think we thought he was a sex maniac. Anyway, but my now new friend had new ideas. She decided that I would make a good date for her oldest brother. So unbeknownst to me, she approached him and suggested that he take me out on a date. He turned her down flat. He was 8 years older than we were. He had been inducted into the United States Navy at the end of the Second World War, served, came out, graduated college, and was running his own retail business and going out with older women. So, but undaunted, my friend went to her second brother, who was 2 years younger. His name was Barnard, and he was an attorney at the Pentagon. Barnard thought it sounded like a good idea, so he said, okay, and a date was made, a blind date, for a family picnic, and it was Memorial Day, 1953, at Alley Pond Park in Queens, where I had grown up, and they had recently moved. I went, had a nice time, met the whole family, all 5 brothers, mom and dad. A week later, the phone rang, and brother number 3 called. This is true, and asking me for a date, and I thought it was a little odd, but then I said, well, if they don't think there's anything wrong, why should I? So I went out with him, but that one was it, one and done. He wasn't for me. And then I waited. I waited for the oldest brother to call. I hoped that he would. I had maybe said only 10 words to him the whole day, and I didn't even know if he had noticed me. But boy, I had noticed him. How could you not? He was gorgeous. And so I waited, and 2 weeks later, the phone rang, and it was Joe, asking me out for a date. I think my heart stopped, but I mumbled a yes, and we went out. I don't remember where we went. I don't remember what we did. I know what we didn't do, because this was the early 50s. I fell madly in love with this man, and my whole life changed. We were married at the middle of my senior year. I did graduate college. I magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa, with honors in history, but that didn't matter. There was no graduate school at Columbia. There was no writing papers. There was no research. I helped Joe in the store when he needed me. I started a little apartment for us. In a couple of years, we decided to start a family. I had 3 sons in less than 6 years. I remember diapering one of the babies and thinking to myself, I wonder if I could do this with a Phi Beta Kappa pin. Only this was before disposables, ladies, for the young ones. In the 60s, we moved to the suburbs. In the 70s, I got certified to teach, and I worked with emotionally disturbed kids for 8 years. And then while my oldest son went on to become a pediatrician and my youngest son went on to become a lawyer, I worked with my middle son, and for 18 years, we ran a comic book store. I went to a convention with my husband, and he was in a seminar, and I was sitting in the lobby. I had taken some X-Men comics along. They were the hottest thing at that time. And I was sitting and reading an X-Men comic, and it suddenly dawned on me, I remembered something that Millicent McIntosh had said to us, maybe it was at graduation, and she said, ladies, remember, no matter what you are doing, always take time every day to read. And I thought, I wonder if this qualifies. After 42 wonderful years with this very beautiful man who was as beautiful inside as he was out, he died suddenly. And I wondered what I would do with the rest of my life. All this time, the Barnard Alumnae magazine would come, and I would read it every time, and I'd turn right to the class notes, and I would look to see what my classmates were doing. And here they were, climbing up in careers, doing exciting things, going to exotic places, and I kept asking myself, what is it that I'm achieving? What am I doing with this magna cum laude? And you know, I really wasn't sure. We hung on in the comic book business about another 2 years, and then for economic reasons, we had to close it. About the same time, my partner's wife decided she wanted a divorce. And because my son had no apparent income, and wasn't really sure what he was going to do with the rest of his life. He basically had grown up in a comic book store. They awarded primary custody of my granddaughter to the mother. This was unfortunate because this is a woman who really didn't want to raise this child. She didn't want to be a single mother. She wanted to be a single woman. And so for the next decade and a half, I basically was a surrogate mother. I did everything with my granddaughter and for my granddaughter that a mother should do. Take her, bring her, work with her, do everything you needed to do. But most of all, what I did was a great deal of what I call telephone therapy. I told my granddaughter that whenever she felt unhappy or unloved or unwanted or wasn't sure what was going to happen in her life, she could pick up a phone. This was before cell phone. She could pick up the phone and she could call Grandma, and I would be there, and I was. And I told her that I loved her and that she would be fine and she would get by and she was smart and she would be okay. Last June, I sat in an auditorium and I watched her graduate college. And she had said to me any number of times, Graham, I could never have done this if you hadn't been there for me. I could have been on drugs, I could have been on the street. But with tears in my eyes, I saw her graduate summa cum laude, and I knew that she was going to achieve, she was going to accomplish her goals, she would be what she wanted to be. And then I guess I really realized that, you know what, accomplishment comes in many forms. Would my life have been different if that girl with the banana curls hadn't sat down next to me? Yes, I'm sure it would have, but you know, I wouldn't have had it any other way.